Hi, bigenderdotnet. My name is Brin. I am the owner administrator, and this week's question is from Vickie Alex, also known as Moral Animal on our forum. Her question is, if you could be one gender instead of two, would you? And why? And what gender would you choose if applicable? Bonus, a book or TV character that has inspired you. So, if I could be one gender instead of two, basically, would I not be trans if I had the option? That's really kind of a tough question. Largely because it would have such a dramatic impact on my life. And I'm not sure if he means, if I could have not been born by gender, if I could have never been by gender, would I? Or if I could choose which, one gender from this point forward to be. I think, as interesting as being by gender has made my life, I probably would have chosen to be cisgender, if I could have, just because being trans has made my life a lot more difficult than it had to be. It made my childhood full of shame and fear and pain that apparently I didn't have, I wouldn't have had to have, and not to mention the confusion. If I could choose to stop being trans, like if there were a cure, a pill that I could take, no, I don't think that I would, actually. I think I would choose to stay by gender. I think having been up to this point, I've gone through all of the things that I need to do in order to feel comfortable with who I am. It's allowed me to, take a journey of self-discovery that I probably wouldn't have, I would have had to have different reason to take. And I wouldn't want to devalue that by giving it up. I think I would choose to continue being by gender if I had the option. If I were to have to choose one gender to be forever, gosh, that's a hard choice. Probably I would choose to be female, to live as Brin rather than as Paul, and just, fully transition. I like the way that I interact with the world as a woman more than as a man. There's definitely things I would miss about interacting with the world as a man, though, and being interacted with. So I don't know that I could ever give it up. I would certainly not choose to. If I had to, for some reason, I like my femininity, and I would hate to have that access to that cut off. And I think as a woman, you have a lot more access to masculinity than a man has access to femininity. So I think that's the choice I'd make. Book or character that has, let's see, is it book or character? Book character or TV character. Actually, I think this may, there's a certain group of people, there's a certain group of people with whom these books are not very popular, but the Sort of Truth books, I find a lot of inspiration in Richard and Kaylin. I was going to say his last name, but that's kind of a spoiler. If you haven't read them, it starts with Wizard's First Rule, and the three main characters are Zed and Richard and Kaylin, and all three of them I find very inspirational and actually have a pretty decent impact on how I live my life. Now, Terry Goodkind is the author, and he is a very devout objectivist and Ayn Rand worshiper. And so his characters have a tendency to become mouthpieces for the author to share objectivist philosophy. But there's a lot of objectivist philosophy that I really do enjoy and find relevant to my life. But those books and those characters really helped me get a handle on how to approach life and a way of looking at life that is rather clear-headed in a way that the way that I've been living before I hadn't been. Which, you know, as it's somewhat dichotomous because it's a fantasy series. It's high fantasy, and there's magic and wizards and sorceresses and the like, but at the same time, it's very much about reason and logic and, you know, ownership of your own life and being an individual and, you know, like one of the phrases that really rung true with me was, your life is your own, rise up and live it. And given the way that I had been living in the closet for my entire life, solely because I was afraid of repercussions from my family, from my friends, from my wife, and my kids, you know, it was really profound to hear someone say, you know, your life is yours, and the only one you have to answer to is you. Now, it does not advocate a fully individual life or hermitage, you know, away from any familial or relationship obligations or interpersonal obligations, but it did, you know, it did make me realize that I only get this one life, and so if I'm going to do something to make me happy, I only have so long to do it in, or else it's all over. So that's it. So I'll be very interested to see what Sydney and Mir and Vickie and Sam all have to say. I swapped Sam and Vickie, or Alex. But I'll be very interested to see what they say about choosing a gender and who they found inspirational. So check back here the rest of the week. Thanks. Bye.